Hello grade 7 learners, this is an awesome atmosphere of learning and we will have an awesome time. Students, always remember that MACALE learning is like a treasure, so better keep it like diamonds. I'm Sir MACALE and welcome to our English class. Surely we'll have fun with challenges by gathering diamonds, but of course with a lot of MACALE learning.
Before we start, I'll present sentences. Look for the verb and the subject, and notice how the sentences are structured, and keep them in mind. Here are the examples. Number 1. Anna baked cupcakes for her friends. Number 2. The Starry Night was painted by Vincent van Gogh. Number 3. Riley will study his lessons later. Number 4. Leonard fixed the machine yesterday. Now, remember the structure in the first examples and identify if the sentences are in the active or passive voice. These are the sentences that you need to answer. Number 1, the book was left on the table by John. Number 2, Jane's mom loves playing with Candy Crush. Number 3, Harry Potter was written by J.K. Rowling. And number 4, Patricia made a community pantry. Now, let's see the correct answers. For number 1, passive. For number 2, active. And for number 3, passive. And for number 4, active.
Very good, you did great. If you got the correct answers, here's 4 diamonds for you. Now, let's start our treasure hunt. What do you think the lesson for today will be? Right, active and passive voice. First, what is voice?
In grammar, the voice of the verb shows whether the subject of a sentence is doing the action or receiving the action. An idea can be expressed in 2 different voices. Number 1, by using a verb to indicate whether the subject performs an action, active voice. And number 2, by using a verb to indicate whether the subject receives the action, passive voice.
In active voice,
in most English sentences with an action verb, the subject performs the action denoted by the verb. The voice of the verb is in active voice when the subject of a sentence performs the action. For example, the kid ate the candy. In this example, the doer of the action is the subject, kid, and the verb ate is in the active voice. As you can see, because the subject does or acts upon the verb in such sentences, the sentences are said to be in the active voice. Here are some more examples. Number 1, the lady sang the national anthem well. Number 2, Marilyn mailed the letter. And number 3, poisonous snakes live in the rainforest.
in passive voice,
When the subject of a sentence is acted on by the verb, the voice of the verb is in passive voice. One can change the normal word order of many active sentences so that the subject is no longer active and the subject is being acted upon by the verb. For example, the candy was eaten by the kid. Here, the action is done to the subject and the verb was eaten is in the passive voice. Since the subject is being acted upon, such sentences are said to be in passive voice. Here are other examples showing the subject is acted upon by the verb. Number 1, the national anthem is sung well by the lady. Number 2, the letter was mailed by Marilyn. 5 hamburgers must have been eaten by the man. Now, let's try to change the sentence from active to passive voice. Step 1. Move the active voice sentences direct object in the sentences subject slot. Step 2. Place the active sentences subject into a phrase beginning with a preposition by. Step 3. Add a form of the auxiliary verb be to the main verb and change the main verb's form as required.
Alrighty then, we've finished the lesson. I surely hope that you had a lot of MACALE learning.
Now, let's change sentences from active to passive. The first sentence is, she cleaned the house. So what's the answer, students? The house was cleaned by her. Correct! Second sentence is, the teacher called the students. So what's the answer, students? The students were called by the teacher. Correct! And the last sentence is, she saved her money. So what's the answer for the last sentence, students? Very good! You got another 3 diamonds for that.
Very good. You got 3 diamonds for that. Let's have another activity. Write the answers in your notebook.
Decide whether the following sentences are written in the active or passive voice. I'll present 5 sentences and give 30 seconds to answer all of them. Number 1. Mom is ironing your shirt. Number 2. The police should bring him to the station. Number 3. The old bridge is being torn down at the moment. Number 4. Tom was pushed into the river by the boys. And number 5. They say he's an excellent pianist. So what are the answers to this? Number 1. Active. Correct. Number 2. Still active. Correct. And number 3. Active. Correct. And number 4. Passive? Yeah, it's correct. And for number 5. Active. Correct again.
Congratulations! Here's your 5 diamonds if you got the correct answers.
Now, let's have true or false activity to continue our MACALE learning. Now, in this activity, identify if the statements presented below is true or false. I'll present 5 sentences and give 8 seconds each number. Number 1. The voice of the verb shows whether the subject of a sentence is the doer of the action or receiver of the action. So what's the answer, students? Is it true? Correct. For number 2, the voice of the verb is in passive voice when the subject of a sentence performs the action. So what's the answer? It's false. Correct. For number 3, when the subject of a sentence is acted on by the verb, the voice of the verb is in passive voice. So what's the answer, students? Is it true? Correct. For number 4, in changing a sentence from active voice to passive voice, we make the object of the active sentence the subject of the passive voice sentence. So what's the answer, students? Is it true? Correct. Now, for the last number 5. The verb used in an active voice sentence is formed by adding the past participle to be and have the same tenses as active verbs. So what's the answer? Is it true? Correct.
Great! Here's another 5 diamonds for your correct answers. Looks like you students have mastered the active and passive voice. That's a lot of MACALE learning. You got a total of 17 diamonds. Congratulations, students! You have finished the lesson. Now I'll give you an assignment so that you can have more of MACALE learning at home.
Now, for our assignment, we will have a reflection. Complete the given ideas below. For the first sentence, I have learned that the voice of the verb. Next is, and that there are two voices of the verb such as. And then the next is, the voice of the verb is in active when. And for the last part, while the voice of the verb is in passive voice when.
Congratulations, students! You have finished the lesson. Once again, I'm Sir MACALE with a lot of MACALE learning. Keep digging diamonds, students!